Good morning, dear students. Today I will do this poem, The Village Schoolmaster by Oliver Goldsmith. This has already been done during the online classes. I am doing this recording for some of the students who had for some reason missed out on the online classes, as well as for those students who had attended the online classes. This is for your reference. Follow it, learn from it, and prepare well for your examination. Now, before I go on to explain this poem, and as you are following this video, have your books open at page 80. Now, let us have a look at the poet first, Oliver Goldsmith. I have mentioned a few facts relating to this poet. It is all mentioned in your book on page 81. Let us have a look at these points regarding the poet and his works. Oliver Goldsmith, his years are 1730, 1734. He died very young at the age of 44. He was an Irish poet and playwright. Playwright means he wrote a lot of plays and dramas. He was very popular among his admirers. He is best known for his novel, The Vicar of Wakefield, in 1776. His well-known play, She Stoops to Conquer, in 1773. The Traveller he wrote in 1764, prior to these two, much before these two. Among his best known works is the long poem, The Deserted Village. Deserted meaning the empty village, in the year 1770. Now, why empty? We learn from this bit of information why he called it the empty village. This poem, this long poem, of which the village schoolmaster is a part and taken as an extract from this long poem, was written in support of the rural way of life, meaning he wrote in support of the simple way of life in the Irish villages, where people were simple, they had a very simple way of life, they cultivated their land, wants were few, they weren't greedy and materialistic. Materialistic meaning they did not want a lot of material goods for themselves. And he was in support of this kind of life, rural life in the villages. And this poem is believed to have criticized the economic and political changes that were threatening it. So he wrote this poem speaking against, commenting against, remarking against the political as well as the economic policies, the political decisions that were taken by the government, and the economic policies, the policies and plans which came into force supporting the city way of life, the town and the city way of life, industrial way of life. And this industrialization led to mass movement, mass migration of people from the villages to towns and cities in search of a better life, in search of employment in the factories, and to have all those material goods which would make life comfortable, much comfortable, which they assumed, which they considered than the village way of life. And he was much against this kind of mass migration of people from the villages in different parts of Ireland to the nearest towns and cities. That is why many scholars believe he wrote this poem. And this poem is in a way a recollection meaning he is recalling the memories when he was a young boy of 6 years, thinking about recollecting or recollection of his own teacher, Thomas Paddy Byrne, who had taught him when he was just 6 years of age. In this poem, he tries to mention his observation and his experience of this teacher, what kind of a man he was, what did the people in the village think of him, how capable he was, and all the different qualities he had as a teacher, his ideas, thoughts and philosophies, the way he looked at the village children and the village way of life. So now let us have a look at the poem in detail. Let us have a look at the first stanza. I will read out the first stanza, then explain to you explain it to you in detail. So the first stanza. Beside yon straggling fence that skirts the way, with blossomed firs unprofitably gay, there in the noisy mansion, skilled to rule, the village master taught his little school. A man severe he was and stern to view, meaning to say, at the beginning of the poem, in the first stanza, the poet is mentioning the geographic location of this particular school which he talks about in this poem, where it was located and what kind of a surrounding it had. Then he goes on to speak about the village schoolmaster, his way of looking at things, and what kind of a person was he. In detail, gentlemen, have a look at the poem. So, beside, he points out, yon meaning that or those, referring to the fence he's talking about. The fence, he says, beside the fence that had spread out, that stood in an uneven manner. Straggling means to spread out in an uneven manner, in an irregular manner, in a discontinuous manner. It was not continuous because it was an old fence. Therefore, it must have been broken in places and it was spread unevenly. So he says, beside that unevenly spread fence which stood along, skirts means in this case that lay along, that spread along, that ran along the edge of the village path leading to the school. This fence ran along this particular path leading to the school, and this fence that he is talking about was unevenly spread. It was covered with shrubs, and the shrubs here had these bright yellow furze, flowers, beautiful flowers, these scented, fragrant flowers. They covered the fence which ran along the path leading to the school, and the flowers, the furze flowers, Despite the flowers making the place look bright and happy, they were unappreciated, unprofitably gay means happiness. So the flowers made the place, the entire place look very bright and beautiful, happy, but there was no one to appreciate the beauty of the sweet smelling yellow flowers which decorated the fence, thereby making the entire place look or appear beautiful and happy. No one stopped by to admire the beauty of the flowers. Sweet smelling means fragrant. Fragrant. Fragrant means sweet smelling. Sweet-smelling. Smelling, sweet smelling. So, gentlemen, there at that particular location, in the noisy mansion is a huge building. Now this building, this school building, was in a way kind of an attraction in the entire village. It was much more bigger than any of the other houses in the village. It was the center of focus apart from the church. The preacher had his church, the village schoolmaster had his school, and it was big. So in that big building, this particular teacher, the poet says, was skilled to rule. He was very fit, he was very competent, skilled meaning competent, capable, fit, and highly trained, you can say, to manage the affairs of the school and run it smoothly. So he was the only person who could do it, who was very capable, who was very competent, 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 and with all the training, with all these abilities and qualities to manage and run the school smoothly. And the next line says, in that particular mansion, this man who was highly skilled, very capable, competent to manage and run the school, he taught his little school. And the poet also mentions the word noisy. Why noisy? Noisy relating to the children who would, talk, chat, run around and make noise. So, therefore, noisy mansion. And the village master taught his little school. A man severe he was, a man who was very strict. A strict disciplinarian he was. He maintained strict discipline and he expected that all his students were very well disciplined, well behaved, and he would not accept anyone misbehaving. He expected absolute obedience from his students. So he was severe, very strict man as far as discipline was concerned. And stern to view means he was very uncompromising. He was authoritative. He was very authoritative in what he said. And he was not lenient. He was not willing to easily let go or accept other people talking bad about the school, as well as his opinions were concerned. He was very uncompromising. He was not willing to change it, and he was very authoritative. He was with authority. He was not going to easily take from the people any bad comment regarding the way he ran the school. And he was not lenient as far as discipline and what needed to be done in the school was concerned. So he was uncompromising, he was authoritative, he was not lenient as far as the school work was concerned, and the way he ran the school, he would not accept any criticism from the people, and the way he looked at things, he would not compromise on that. He would not, make any changes to please anyone. So he was very uncompromising on his views as well as the way people looked at the school and his way of functioning, his work. He would not take any criticism. He was very stern, very firm in his perception, the way he looked at things, the way he looked at the village, the way he looked at the people, their behavior and the way of life. And he was not willing to make any changes as far as he was concerned. So, looking at this, it tells us what kind of a man he was. What kind of a man and teacher he was. It tells us that he was very severe, strict, disciplinarian, and it also tells us that he was very firm, he was uncompromising on his opinions, what views he had, what he thought, and he was very firm with the criticism and what the people had to talk about him and the school, the way it was run. He would not take any bad criticism. So that kind of a person and teacher this particular man was. He was severe and stern, strict and firm. So gentlemen, with this we come to the end of the first stanza. So please have a look again at the stanza and let us read together. If you have any difficulties, do contact me and I will be very happy to explain it to you and solve your problems, clear your doubts. So next to this uneven, discontinuous, irregularly spread, not continuously spread, and not of the uniform size and shape and height of the fence, which was unkept, which was not taken care of because it was an old fence, and the fence ran along the edge of the village path. This fence was covered with what kind of shrub? The name of the shrub? Firs. Shrubs, and there were these beautiful firs, flowers which had bloomed, making the place look very attractive, happy, and very bright. So these shrubs with these yellow flowers, very sweet smelling, bright flowers, made the place look very gay and happy. And in that particular location, there was this huge building. Comparing it with the other village houses, it was quite big. It was noisy. Why? The children would come in. They would run around, make noise while the school would be on. So noisy mansion. The village schoolmaster, who was a strict disciplinarian, firm in his views, in the way he looked at uh, the, the entire functioning of the school, the way he looked at life, the people, what he expected the students to do, how they would behave. He was very particular about that. He taught his small little group of students in that school. So that is what the first stanza actually means. Beside yawn, yawn means that, indicating, pointing out to the discontinuous, uneven, irregular fence running along the village path leading to the school. There were firs, shrubs with these yellow, bright, fragrant, sweet-smelling flowers which made the place look very bright and happy. There in that mansion, noisy mansion, skilled, very capable, trained, highly trained, very competent man, he ran and taught his little school. He was a very severe man as far as discipline was concerned, strict man as far as discipline was concerned, and stern, very firm in his views, the way he looked at things, and he was very stern, unwilling to compromise and accept any negative criticism from the people as far as in relation to how he ran the school and the way it should have been managed. So in the next video, I will meet and explain to you the next stanza, following which the third video